So with the NBA nearing a brand new TV deal, there's a lot of interesting things going on in this sports media landscape with companies consolidating. You got Peacock merging with Netflix and Apple TV to form a bundle. Same thing for Discovery Plus and Hulu and HBO Max, just all collaborating into one package instead of having their customers sporadically jump from one platform to the next. And that's all just to maintain the subscription, because people's habits in this streaming era is very different. They may tune into one platform because of a particular show, but then when that show ends, they're off that platform. So the business model of streaming has not really been proven to be fully profitable. And this sort of consumer behavior when it comes to streaming is going to trickle down into sports. What happens when a particular team is not doing as well, especially when it comes to the local TV deals? What happens when a consumer checks out of an app because their favorite sport is currently in their off season? So many consolidations between different streaming platforms will continue on, which blurs the line of who's really in competition with who, as we see ESPN, Fox, and Discovery, aka TNT, all collaborate on an app that's soon to be released. And also ESPN is going to have their own standalone app, which is direct to consumer. And even when launched, they're still going to be operating under the whole premise that streaming has not really been profitable outside of Netflix. But we're going to get direct insight from a few people within the sports industry, starting out with Stephen A. Smith, on some of the inner nuances that are going on behind the scenes. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Thing about it is this: the first order of business they accomplished is when they took basketball-related income and they reduced it from 57% to 50%. Because what happens is that, okay, there's a line, there's a share that you're getting as ownership, all right, when it comes to player salaries and the investments that you got to make in players. You're establishing a degree of cost certainty. So you know that as a result, you can compete to some degree because there's but so much you can spend. It's going to be very punitive if you go over the luxury tax and stuff like that, and the rich stay rich because they know how to be cheap when they need to be cheap. So we understand that part. But in the larger markets, particularly if you're innovative enough, you can really, really maximize the potential of your individual franchise, and that's not going to be stopped. So the NBA will guard against that. But the streaming stratosphere has really opened things up. And what I would say to you is that you got to really, really look at what the NFL did. They were on DirecTV, but then they went to YouTube, and they couldn't be happier by making that move. And it does look like a better product. The clarity, you know, of just the whole visual, it just looks aesthetically brilliant on the part of the NFL. Absolutely.
It just pops more?
It just pops more. Not only that, you got 4 games on one screen. So you don't have to sit up there and have 3, 4 multiple TVs or whatever. You could put 3 or 4 games on one screen. And then you know what? You could sit up there and, you know, full screen any game that you want. So having the ability to do those things really, really puts the NFL in a good position. The other leagues are watching because the NFL is the model. And so now you got the NBA, and they're going to make deals with TNT. They're going to make deals with ABC and ESPN, NBC.
Now, the only issue with the NBA making deals with local broadcasting networks is that they operate on the backs of cable. See, with the NFL going to YouTube TV, Peacock, and all these streaming apps, is that they also provide them with the global reach of just being on a internet streaming platform. Not only that, but they also provide data on their customers. I'm pretty sure that's the underlying part that the NFL did not even speak on. They're collecting data on what their customers like to consume, what are their habits, what time do they actually tune into the app, what time is their best performing games. You see, they get to collect this information. But if the NBA signs back up with TNT, and this is one of the conundrums of that network, is that they really can't provide the NBA with data on their customers. They don't have that infrastructure set up. So regardless of the amount of money that TNT could throw into the NBA, number one, the NBA audience is not necessarily on cable. And number two, they don't have the infrastructure to collect data on the audience, which is almost as valuable as the money that they're given per year. And one thing we've learned from these social media companies, data is king.
ABC probably is going to want to get back into the mix, but make no mistake about it, they're going to make sure they have a digital platform to put their product on. And because you have a product to put because you have a platform to put your product on in the digital stratosphere, that may attract more digital competition. Why is that relevant? We take a situation, ABC and ESPN, with Disney, collaborating with Fox, Warner Brothers Discovery, right? Their market cap was projected to be at approximately a little under $400 billion. A lot of money, we get all of that. You know what Apple is? You know what Amazon is?
They're like over trillions.
Nearly $3 trillion apiece.
And that's going to be ESPN's issue when they go direct to consumer, as well as that app that they have collaborating with Discovery and Fox, is that these networks really rely on their consumers subscribing month in, month out. Meanwhile, these tech companies have other things built into their ecosystems. Amazon has food delivery. You can get everyday items and essentials that you need for your home. Apple has the iPhone and that whole ecosystem behind it, whether it be music, iCloud, etc. So the tech companies could really acquire some of these assets like the NBA, the NFL, not necessarily to turn a profit right away. They could bite the bullet, but they could just add those things to their already built-in ecosystem. But traditional broadcast networks don't really have that cushion.
You know what's it? If not a little over that. And so when you see that, they just haven't really delved into the world of sports, because obviously these league rights fees cost a load and some of them don't want to pay it. And if you don't need to pay it because you're already more valuable than anybody else, why do you need to do that? But if they decided that they wanted to get into it a bit more, who knows what the hell will happen.
Not necessarily the tech companies don't want to pay it. They actually want to have a proof of concept. I believe them getting into the whole documentary sports style thing, or just doing these one-offs, maybe with WWE or just these boxing events like the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, it kind of gives them proof of concept, because once again, behind the scenes, they're data collecting on their customers. So they're going to have the exact numbers to a T on whether this works or not, or if it's even valuable for them to get these sports leagues, because we all know these sports leagues eventually, after their contract expires, are going to want more and more money. So the tech companies have that understanding, and they're going to want some data showing that things can go in their favor. So that's why we've seen a slight hesitation or just a easing into the live/sports world, i.e. Netflix and Amazon.
Netflix, what if they decide they really want to stick their toes into the world of sports? What's going to happen? So the leagues are looking at all of this and they're exploring what opportunities are available to them. And if you're the National Football League, if you're college football, if you're the NBA, you're going to have a whole bunch of suitors. You're going to have a whole bunch of suitors. And if you're showing the ability, especially if they figure out how to monetize the streaming stratosphere to the degree they should.
Stephen A. Smith lets you know right there, the streaming model has not yet been proven to be fully a functional source of revenue going forward. We've seen Paramount struggle with this, and a lot of these networks that have all these movies that they made in the past and present struggle once they launch their own streaming services, including Disney. So building a business relying on subscription numbers, what happens once you hit the peak? And this is a point where Netflix might have begun to hit the wall, because they're reporting to their investors that they're no longer going to announce the subscriber count. But once again, with the tech companies, we got to look at the infrastructure that they have. They could collect data on the audience. And the NFL being one of the first leagues to do YouTube deals along with Amazon and just having their product on streaming, they are one of the first ones to the table to collect data on their audience. And this is where it leaves TNT in a very tough spot with the NBA,